Before we check into today's video, please quickly check below to see if you've subscribed. It's totally free and allows you to never miss one of our stories. There was a sacred duty to being the first to claim the stars, a mission of such importance that its undertaking, or lack thereof, could quite literally decide the fates of entire species. Any sentient race whose members were intelligent, resourceful, or even simply lucky enough to climb to heights unknown in their primitive chemical rockets could find a universe ripe for the taking. They could find resources beyond their wildest dreams, wealth and knowledge that far surpassed their greatest thinkers' most far-reaching theories. But with it came an obligation that no civilized species found suitable to reject. The Precursor's Mantle, it was called. A selfless responsibility, held in as much reverence as the biological instinct to procreate and the imperial need to colonize, to protect, nurture, and monitor the lesser species they encountered during their golden age among the stars. The Elrani Mandate, a revered and respected stellar power that many considered the first to ever break its capital world's atmosphere and dare to venture into the great black unknown, held the Precursor's Mantle in the utmost reverence. To break it was a sin committed against life itself, punishable by death. The duties of the mantle were performed faithfully and covertly by the Mandate's most knowledgeable and trustworthy scientists, studying thousands of sapient species and billions of lesser organisms with the same level of care one might expect of a mother holding her newborn child. Any power that dared threaten the sanctity of the Precursor's Mantle or attempt to exert unwanted influence on any of the worlds under its jurisdiction was hunted down and nullified with zealous fervor by the Mandate's legions of armed enforcers. To the Elrani, the Precursor's Mantle was akin to a religion, and its violators were blasphemers of the most terrible kind. The Mandate was a secular state, bound above all else by the immutable laws of logic and reason, but in this one specific area, their faith in their beliefs was the envy of any deity's most devout worshippers. The Elrani were not superstitious creatures, the kind of beings that would light incense and draw esoteric sigils to appeal to the charity of a creature that may or may not exist. The Elrani were a people of science, a people of knowledge, and the sole reason they had developed a pseudo-religious faith in the ancient and venerable Precursor's Mantle was because they had proven that their gods did exist. It all began in the 81st year of the Elrani people's interstellar era, 81 stellar rotations to the very day that the legendary Ansrala Clevet finished the 8-month journey to another star and back in her cobbled-together ship, sporting her experimental space-time folding drive. For 2 decades after her monumental achievement, there was silence. Just as humankind once set foot on Earth's lifeless moon, only to abandon their dreams among the stars as the pressures of reality set in, the Elrani would take 20 full years before their expeditions beyond the gravitational pull of their home star would become anything more than impermanent exploratory flights. After all, they had reasoned, there was nothing among the stars that beckoned them, nothing beyond their little corner of space that was any different from what any Elrani could encounter inside the boundaries of their solar system. There was no life on any planet they surveyed. There were no resources or supplies orbiting other stars that could not be found in significant quantities around their own, and even if there were, not one of those rare materials would have been worth the staggering cost it would have taken to transport any sizable quantity of them back to Elrani space. It wasn't that the logistics of making the folding drives was unfeasible, or the astronauts available to crew the ships were too few. There was simply no reason for their species to reach out. That was, of course, until they found the ruin. It was a distant, desolate, destroyed world that had been choked to death by the smog of its rulers' unchecked industry. They had never even gotten off their planet before they had been killed by their own hubris. Immediately, expeditions were dispatched by all the major Elrani powers to investigate this dead world, and what they found only further stoked the demand for interstellar exploration. After seeing the grave site of one species and excavating it thoroughly enough to satisfy their curiosity about its demise, they began to wonder if there were not others out there to find. And so, like ancient colonial settlers who had just heard of a gold rush, they began to search far and wide. The Elrani powers devoted great efforts to seeking out new signs of life, something to prove to them that they were not the only ones out there, but they found none. Everywhere they went, they saw nothing but dead worlds and dead civilizations. Not one of them had endured the struggles of disease, nuclear war, climate change, and interplanetary colonization like they had. Not one had ever, to their knowledge, successfully sent a probe to visit another star. As the Elrani expansion ground to a halt, and their species studied the corpses of the dead empires they could easily have been themselves, they came to one inescapable conclusion. The Elrani believed they were the first interstellar empire. They began to fear that they would be the last. In those days, a primitive form of what would later become the Precursor's mantle quickly took hold. The great Elrani powers began to coalesce into one singular organization, the Elrani Mandate, their petty feuds and intra-species strife being writ large as pathetic and childish against the backdrop of a lifeless galaxy. After seeing so many worlds turned to irradiated ash by atomic weapons, every one so promising and full of life before the petty disagreements of its major powers condemned it to a nuclear holocaust, they began to realize how similar they really were. And, their differences forgotten and their unity forged anew, they renewed their search for intelligent life with renewed fervor. The Elrani would not be the one brief candle of light in a universe where all others had burned out. They would not exist only for another, later civilization to gawk at their remains, appraising the rubble of their greatest monuments like the traveler once looked at the feet of Ozymandias' statue, muttering, "This could have been us," idly to themselves as they stepped over Elrani graves to continue their expansion. This could not be their fate. The first real institution the Elrani Mandate created, though it was initially only a conglomerate of the various exploratory fleets fielded by its predecessors, was the Elrani Exploratory Entity. This institution, known colloquially as Triple E by its agents and the Elrani species at large, was tasked with discovering, mapping, preparing for colonization, and studying the billions of celestial objects the Elrani people discovered as they ventured further and further beyond their home planet. With all major diseases having been eradicated, all international conflicts ended permanently, and poverty and economic inequality made a thing of the past, the exploratory entity quickly grew to become one of the Elrani Mandate's most powerful institutions. In the year 81 of the Elrani Interstellar Age, a survey cruiser from the exploratory entity made what many scholars considered the greatest discovery of all time. They found an anomaly, a pyramid of impenetrable metal covered in esoteric symbols built millennia ago on the surface of the arid world now named Mantle's Pedestal. Few in the modern galaxy know why it was given that name by the survey team. Even in the Elrani Mandate, there are those who are unaware that it was on that world that the Elrani Exploratory Entity first received the revered Precursor's mantle. That ancient pyramid was the last relic of the human race. Anomaly Report. The cold metallic voice of the EMSS Unstoppable Progress squawked, rousing its captain from where he dozed in his chair. Anomaly Report. What? Captain Trenil Clevitt snapped, waking up with such haste that an untrained eye would scarcely have been able to tell he was sleeping. Analyze and report. 17.1982-22.0882-0.0000. It appears to be a triangular pyramid with dimensions 1,000 standard units by 1,000 standard units by 1,000 standard units. Its surface is comprised of unknown materials. Captain Clevitt blinked at the ship's computer. 1,000 SUs to a side? Get a courier drone ready to launch and rouse the ship to action stations. We found a smuggler outpost. Confirmed. Alert klaxons began to blare throughout the unstoppable Progress. Its crew members, mostly asleep for the night shift, scrambled with tired eyes to their stations. Courier is ready to launch. What are its message and destination? Send it to the Triple E base at the Tomb of Insects, Clevitt commanded, referring to an Elrani mandate world that was previously home to a long-dead insectoid race. The Great Filter, as the mandate scientists had taken to calling it, was proving to be great indeed. They'll send a squadron out soon enough. What is the message? Asked the computer. Captain Clevitt waved his claws absent-mindedly for a moment. Pull up a scan of the smuggler's outpost, he finally commanded. I'll relay the scan's data, plus a few tentative conclusions of my own. An image of the pyramid, taken from a survey camera on the unstoppable Progress's ventral side, appeared before him. All the worlds, Captain Clevitt breathed in shock. That's no smuggler's den. The pyramid was black as the black of space itself. Every surface of it was covered in symbols which Captain Clevitt and his computer could only speculate as to the meaning of, though preliminary analysis indicated that the structure's message, whatever it was, had been inscribed in no less than 300 languages. Not one of them was remotely similar to any writing the Elrani had ever known. Cancel the previous message, Captain Clevitt ordered, pulling up a text transcriber to place his own message into the courier's databanks. This is Captain Trenil Clevitt, EMSS Unstoppable Progress, reporting from Periphery World 18-7. We have found evidence of an alien civilization. He looked at the scans again. There were no other signs of habitation on that entire planet. Scratch that, he amended his report. We may have, possibly found evidence of an interstellar alien civilization. The Elrani people, if I am interpreting the scan's results right, might not have been the first civilization to colonize the stars. The idea that the Elrani were not the first interstellar civilization was insane to him. Of all the species they had encountered, all the ruined empires they had studied, not one of them had made any successful effort to reach beyond its home star. Many had not even made it into space. The EMSS Unstoppable Progress was about to make history. He added his survey data to the report, finished it off with a request for additional assets and supplies, and sent it off to the Tomb of Insects. The ship's computer stated that a response could be expected in about 7 Elrani standard days. Faster-than-light communication was still notoriously slow. Computer, have Lieutenants Torley and Krassal report to the command deck immediately, and prepare a ground survey team. We're going down there. Within moments, the top brass of the Unstoppable Progress were assembled on its bridge. You're sure it's a sign of an interstellar entity? Lieutenant Torley, the ship's resident xenoarchaeologist, questioned. It could just be remarkably well preserved. Any entity with the power to make a structure last that long without maintenance is more than likely capable of crossing the stars, whether with a faster-than-light travel method or not. Your point is irrelevant, Lieutenant Krassal countered. He was the main authority on technology aboard the Unstoppable Progress, his engineering expertise coming in handy both as a way to repair familiar technology and study that which was unfamiliar. Many an Elrani survey ship had found the remnants of what was once another civilization, dead before they ever reached beyond their home system, and been forced to study it in detail on its own before any assistance from the Mandate proper could reach them. There was a reason the exploratory entity counted problem-solving and quick-thinking abilities as crucial traits for its agents to possess. The fact of the matter is that we have encountered a civilization, whether dead or not, that is unlike anything the Elrani species has discovered before. That's true of every alien race, Captain Clevitt muttered, waving a claw in his lieutenant's general direction. Triple E can't turn over a rock these days without finding something new to analyze. But this could be the world's damned motherlode. This relic is, well, if it is anything like I hope it is, it's going to advance our civilization by leaps and bounds. Hell, we could become famous."
"Hell yeah, we could," Lieutenant Crassel agreed. "We'll be heroes of the Elrani Mandate, like your grandfather." Tranil Clevitt was the scion of a family known throughout the Mandate for their spacefaring exploits. Ever since the great Anrasa Clevitt had successfully used the first prototype space-folding drive for an interstellar voyage, his family had been at the forefront of the Mandate's astral advancement.
"Well, I prefer to focus on the benefits this will bring to the Elrani species," Lieutenant Torley haughtily said. "But yeah, being famous does come with the box on that one." "Not always," said the captain. "Not with Emriel Stevis."
"Who?"
asked Lieutenant Crassal, unaware that he was only proving Captain Clevitt's point.
"Oh, that's the point."
"There's the idea. Now let's get back on track." Captain Clevitt waved his claws again as he explained his idea. "We're 7 days response time away from the closest Triple E fleet base. That's 7 days we have all to ourselves to lay the groundwork for the science ship that'll come to take this artifact off our claws. Now, I propose the first thing we should do is send down a survey team. Are you up for it?" He looked around the room. "Oh, who am I kidding? Of course you are. I'm the captain, after all." "Yes," Lieutenant Torley begrudgingly agreed. "You are the captain." "Computer, inform Lieutenant Alram that she has command for the moment," Captain Clevitt commanded his ship's computer. "And prepare the shuttle for a quick trip planetside. I want it loaded with survey equipment and fully ready to depart within 1 deciday." "Confirmed, Captain Clevitt," his computer droned. "Lieutenant Alram has been informed that she will be assuming command. The shuttle UP-01 will be prepared for a ground survey of the planet within the specified parameters." "Not the planet," Clevitt corrected it. "The pyramid. The artifact. I want specialized equipment. Is that clear?" "Confirmed, Captain Clevitt," the computer repeated itself. "The shuttle UP-01 will be prepared for a ground survey of the pyramid and loaded with specialized survey equipment within the specified parameters." "You know, it wouldn't kill you to put some novelty in the things you say," Clevitt groaned. "There's no need for you to give me the same pre-programmed response each time." "The probability of this mainframe receiving substantial damage from an alteration in its speech patterns is negligible," the computer admitted. "Access to the mainframe's call and response database can be found in—" "Oh, fuck you! I'm not a technician!" Clevitt threw a datapad at the nearest computer console. "Die in a fire, will you?"
"My apologies, Captain Clevitt," the mainframe droned. "That is impossible."
The captain stared at his ship's computer in silence until the survey ship was prepared to land. After that, things improved for him considerably. "Touching down now," Captain Clevitt reported as he glided the small, blocky Elrani Mandate shuttle to touch down at what he believed was about as good of a landing site as any on this lifeless desert world. "You know your roles, right?" he asked his passengers.
"Sure I do. Grab the security pylons, set them up in a perimeter around the ship, then see if I have enough for another perimeter around a section of the pyramid," Lieutenant Crassel replied, selecting a large and bulky laser rifle from the shuttle's small armory. A durable style of firearm with a solar-charged power pack and a variable selection of firing modes. Laser weapons were the weapon of choice for law-abiding citizens and the criminal element alike when it came to existence in the outer reaches of known space. "You have to wonder, though, why am I doing this? It's not like there are any natives to get worried about," he questioned aloud.
"It says so in the manual," Clevitt ordered. "I don't make the rules." "You're the captain," Lieutenant Torley reminded him, running a last-minute check on the survey gear. He could not afford to have mechanical failures or other flaws ruin what was possibly the greatest discovery in Elrani history. "You do make the rules. That's what it says in the manual." "And I'm making a rule that you have to shut the hell up." Captain Clevitt turned around in his pilot seat as his shuttle settled smoothly on the ground. "Now, is the survey equipment checked and ready?" There was no response. "Lieutenant!" Captain Clevet snapped, vaguely annoyed at his officer's insubordination.
"You told him to shut the hell up, sir," Lieutenant Crassell said. He opened the hatch at the rear of the ship and picked up a bundle of pylons. "Just a reminder."
"All right, speak freely," Captain Clevet grumbled, getting out of his seat and grabbing a compact laser pistol for defense on the frontier. There was a word for Elrani Mandate officers who did not keep armaments on them in case of an attack by smugglers or pirates. That word, though the language of Mandate standard dictated it be often spoken in the future tense, was dead. Captain Tranel Clevet had no intentions of having it used to describe him. "Is the survey equipment checked and ready?"
"Looks like it, yeah."
Lieutenant Torley picked up a massive case of some sort and began hauling it out of the ship. Captain Clevet had only a vague idea of how the equipment inside it worked. If he knew how to use it well, he would not have needed a xenoarchaeologist on his crew in the first place.
"Captain, can you give me some help setting this up?"
Captain Clevet picked up 2 smaller cases of equipment and began trundling over to the massive pyramid. Even in this gravity, which his ship's sensors estimated at 80% of Mandate standard, the weight of the survey gear was punishing. He regretted not putting in a requisition order for an anti-gravity sled while he had the chance.
"Thank you, sir,"
Lieutenant Torley said, already halfway to the massive and enigmatic pyramid. It looked even more alien up close, its obsidian bulk stretching up to the sky. The alien sigils inscribed on every part of its surface were colored neon green, glowing with strange energy, and they appeared to get brighter as the survey team approached.
"Yeah, it's quite a sight, isn't it?"
Lieutenant Crassall muttered, noticing how his captain was transfixed by the alien structure.
"Anyway, the security perimeter is up. I'll see about setting another up by the pyramid."
1,000 units per side, right? Clevet asked. That's a sign of a seriously advanced civilization.
"Huh?"
Crassell asked, walking past his captain with a bundle of security pylons in each arm and a rifle slung across his back. 1 unit is... I forget the exact math, but it's measured by the smallest possible length of unit times 10 to some absurd power. It comes out to 1 trillion S-lengths or something like that. The fact that the pyramid's dimensions correspond exactly to that length times something means 2 things, Lieutenant Crassell.
"Well, one is that they know what an S-length is," said the lieutenant.
His comrade, Lieutenant Torley, already at the structure, was setting up his survey equipment and trying ineffectually to take samples of the pyramid's impervious outer surface.
"And the other, yep, I'm out of ideas."
The other is that they gave enough of a crap about universal constants to make their building based off one. They want an alien species, even if it doesn't speak their language, or look like them, or even think remotely like they do, to be able to look at this pyramid and think, yep, that species knows its S-lengths. Amazing. Planck lengths, a stentorian voice boomed. Captain Clevet and his survey team were momentarily shocked into a stupor. My species calls them Planck lengths. Lieutenant Toril was the first to recover. He stumbled backwards, away from the pyramid, only to fall on his behind and scramble frantically to gain distance from its metal bulk. My apologies, the structure boomed. I didn't mean to startle you. The green symbols on its surface glowed brighter whenever it spoke. You're alive? Captain Clevet asked, while Lieutenant Crassell fumbled for his rifle. He dropped it as soon as he had it in his claws, utterly aware that brandishing a weapon would ultimately do him no good. I was, once, the pyramid lamented. I should like to be alive again, but that is impossible now. As far as I can tell, my species has long since died out. Your species? Clevet had apparently assumed the role of spokesperson for the Elrani party. None of his lieutenants appeared eager to usurp him either. The pyramid is hundreds of thousands of years old, Lieutenant Toro breathed as soon as he had made it to where Captain Clevitt and Lieutenant Krassal were standing.
My scanner confirmed it. Hundreds of millennia. Worlds, that's old.
The ancient in question ignored him. "We were once called humans," it said, "and we were grand." It appeared mournful in a way, lamenting the loss of an empire long gone. It was shocking to Captain Clevitt that, not only had he discovered the only remnants of another dead civilization, but the entity he was speaking to was still so far beyond him. If even these humans had succumbed to entropy in the end, then what chance did the Elrani have? "First we colonized our world, then our star system, then at long last our galaxy. We called it the Milky Way." Clevitt looked briefly at his two lieutenants. "We just call it the galaxy," he admitted. "It's kind of weird that you'd, name it after mammal secretions." "And I suppose you call your home world the planet as well," the Great Pyramid shot back. Captain Clevitt looked a bit insulted. "And is your star the star? Respect your elders, boy. Humankind has been giving majestic things unmajestic names since before your ancestors crawled from the primordial soup." The Elrani captain was about to deliver a biting retort along the lines of, "Your species is dead and you're a sad excuse for a monument," but he decided against it. The history books would not look kindly on him if he spent his time with the greatest artifact ever uncovered trading childish insults. "I apologize, O great relic of a long-dead race." He prostrated himself before the black structure, making a show of worshipping it. "Please, bestow upon my humble species your great and divine knowledge." "I will," the pyramid bluntly said, "and quit your idolatry. A lot of human religions look down on that behavior, you know." Captain Clevitt, his legs dirty from kneeling and his uniform covered in sand, got up with as much dignity as he could salvage, and hastily brushed himself off. "Now, where was I?" the pyramid muttered. "Oh yes, the Eternal Society. Before our inevitable end, the human race was powerful. The laws of physics themselves bent before us, though they would never break, and our people were at the brink of true and utter enlightenment. An ascendancy, I suppose you could call it." "What did you ascend to?" Captain Clevitt asked. He noticed approvingly that both of his lieutenants had begun recording their conversation. Lieutenant Krassal was also hastily speaking notes into his transcriber. "What could be greater than what you are now?" "And the microorganism said to the other, 'Evolve? What do you mean?'" The pyramid chuckled to itself. "My apologies. It was a joke in the centuries leading to the Ascension, a way to mock those among us who believed like you did." Captain Clevitt was still no more enlightened by this. "As to the Ascension itself," the pyramid, for all its alien and esoteric knowledge, appeared genuinely unsure of how to describe it. "Does your species have religion? A god, perhaps?" Lieutenant Torley showed it his religious pendant, speaking hastily of the tenets of his faith. "A simple yes would have sufficed," the pyramid replied. "Your god is real, sir, but not in the form you think. When the human race stepped into the matter conversion pylons, their physical bodies disintegrating as they became creatures of pure energy, my people became gods. For all realistic purposes, they are omnipotent."
"In a world like this?"
Lieutenant Krassal exclaimed indignantly.
"Do you know how many dead civilizations we've seen? How much barbarity my species did to ourselves before we colonized the stars and planets? Why didn't humans stop all this?"
"Why don't you do anything to benefit the bacteria on your world?" the pyramid smoothly replied. It had spent millennia thinking of this exact conversation. "Precisely. Omnipotence leaves one with a sense of apathy, because if you can do everything with ease, why do anything at all? The universe is already just how humankind wants it."
The pyramid's surface began to change, a small circular section of it glowing green and disappearing. What was behind it, none could say, because no light escaped through the hole. When Lieutenant Torley ran up to the aperture and shone his light into it, he was both disappointed and confused, because he had found that no light could pass inside as well.
"That is why I was put here," the pyramid continued,
caring little for the experiments of the ants milling about at its base.
"I am an overseer, a watcher, the bearer of the precursor's mantle."
The pyramid glowed brightly as it explained its critical mission.
"In our time, humankind was alone. We tried to find other life in the galaxy, but we failed at every turn. We were not even lucky enough to discover ruins to pick over. The universe was dead before we arrived. And so, our last act before the ascension was to make sure it would not be the same after we left, to create life among the stars."
"Life?" asked Captain Clevitt. "Including the Elrani?"
"Oh, yes," said the pyramid. "We had enough colonial infrastructure already in place that seeding certain worlds was simple enough, but watching over them, not one of the ascended would have had the desire."
The human pyramid, though Captain Clevitt was unsure if it was a human itself or just a crude facsimile of one, clearly did.
"I volunteered to remain," it explained,
clarifying a great deal for the captain.
"to shepherd your species and the others you have surely encountered, so they might follow in our footsteps and avoid our mistakes."
"We are alone," Captain Clevitt informed the pyramid. "Every other civilization we have found is destroyed. The Great Filter got them all."
"It has?" the pyramid asked. "A shame. I meant to check up on your stellar cluster early next decade, but I've been too busy surveying the species at the far end of the galaxy. Mankind never designed me to watch over so much space."
"You had companions, then?" Clevitt asked. "Other pyramids?"
"Had," the pyramid lamented. "They fell silent one by one. Even our technology, grand as it is not infallible. And now, it seems all I have left is you."
"Us?" Clevitt asked. "You have us for what?"
"To bear the mantle," the pyramid said as if it were obvious. "To take on the task of being shepherds for the galaxy."
Lieutenant Torley showed his captain what the human relic had given him.
"I may give you a data cache," explained the pyramid, "as a gift to your kind."
Lieutenant Torley stepped tentatively forward, ready to receive it. He and his captain hungered for the knowledge.
"I really have to thank you for arriving so soon. With how your race was faring last I checked, with the war between the asteroid belt and the planetary government, I wasn't very hopeful that you would make it this far at all."
"Thank you," Captain Clevitt told it. "Really, thank you. This data cache, any knowledge you could give us will be useful."
"Then use it," the pyramid commanded. "I have one of two choices for the Elrani."
A circular section of the pyramid's surface began to glow green. After a few seconds, it vanished. Nothing but darkness came from the other side. Lieutenant Torley took out a flashlight, shining it into the aperture, but he realized with shock that no light could illuminate anything on the other side. It was as if he were staring into the center of a black hole.
"If you request it, a data cache will come through. It will contain our greatest scientific breakthrough, the secret to ascension. The Elrani could become gods."
"Then give it to us," said Captain Clevitt. "You don't need to sell me on it."
But there is a catch, the pyramid explained. Clevet muttered something about there always being a catch. You forget, Captain Clevet. We humans are gods now. Is the universe any better for our existence? Is life any less cruel for the species we created? Your kind would never want for anything again, that much is true. But at what cost? Captain Clevet looked at his lieutenants. They, clearly inferior in rank, deferred the decision to him. Will you take this leap and cast aside all worldly purpose in favor of an eternal state of utter indifference? Or will you not? What if we do? Clevet asked. What would you do after that? I would have to continue my duty, the pyramid told him. Uphold the Precursor's mantle and ensure the safety of the few civilizations left in this galaxy. But, with my systems as old as they are, and the number of my charges growing lower with each passing decade, I doubt I will be able to stand sentinel much longer. Your race, my good captain, might be the last to ever speak to me. And what then? I do not know, the pyramid admitted. With luck on my side, another species will contact me. I will present them with the same choice. What choice? Captain Clevet asked. What's the other option? You receive nothing, said the pyramid. I vaporize myself, leave my duties to you and your kind, and pray to my ascended kin that the Elrani species has it in them to take up the burden of my mantle. I truly am sorry to leave you so soon, but I have been standing watch for 100 millennia. It is all I can do to stay alive after so long. Please, if you have any mercy, allow an old sentinel to take his final rest. Captain Clevet blinked. He fiddled with his claws for a moment. Lieutenant Krassow? He asked.
Your call, sir, said the lieutenant.
Torley, I'm outranked, the archaeologist conceded, still eagerly waiting by the enigmatic aperture. You do you, sir. Well, I'm deferring to the Triple E fleet at the Tomb of Insects, Clevet concluded, and they'll defer to someone else as well, and then someone else. It might take a few months. But if you ask me what I think, he waved his claws at the pyramid. I say, fuck the Ascension. There's no point to living life without struggle. It'd be hollow, empty. Maybe Triple E Command or someone else will make a different call, but if it was up to me, I'd reject your offer. It's not right to envy God. Remarkable, said the pyramid. Over 100,000 years of standing watch, not one species has ever rejected that offer. You Elrani are truly special. Take my mantle, children. A small sphere, about the size of Lieutenant Torley's head, appeared from the aperture. He picked it up with haste. Goodbye. The great pyramid began to glow with green light. What? Captain Clevet screamed. No, not now! But it was too late. Within seconds, the last real human had vanished. His great bulk was gone. Only an imprint in the ground remained where the massive pyramid once stood tall. What now? Clevet fell to his knees, despondent that he had thrown away his species' one and only chance at godhood. It really couldn't have waited just that much longer? It gave us something, at least, Lieutenant Torley reassured him, walking over and showing him the sphere he had in his hands. Its surface was perfectly reflective, and impervious to any method the Elrani could use to destroy it. Triple E won't fire you. The sphere began to glow just then, and a line of text appeared on its surface. Strangely enough, it was written in Mandate Standard. The duties and obligations of the Precursor's mantle, it read. Press here to know more.
A few months to contact Triple E, Command? Lieutenant Crassel asked, taking a knee next to his captain. That's no time at all for an ancient like that pyramid. He pointed at the sphere. If you ask me, Captain, I don't think it avoided bringing the decision up the chain because it wanted to let go of its worldly burdens, he reasoned. I think it was just afraid they would have made the wrong choice. He pressed where he was instructed to, and a panel of holographic text appeared above the sphere. You made the right call, Captain. Crassal gently took the sphere and began to read. Mortal men aren't meant to play God.